This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for Friday, January 10th, 2024. I'm Marek Mazurek. Ohio-based American Electric Power on Friday announced a plan to sell a minority stake in two of its subsidiaries, including one headquartered in Indiana, for almost $3 billion. The proposed agreement would see global investment firm KKR and Canada-based Public Sector Pension Investment Board, or PSP Investments, acquire about a 20% equity interest in Fort Wayne-based Indiana-Michigan Power and AEP Ohio. AEP said the deal would allow the utility to, quote, efficiently finance a growing segment of its business in the Midwest and enhance its ability to serve growing customer demand and provide reliable service, end quote. The company said in a news release that proceeds from the proposed sale would support AEP's 5-year, $54 billion capital growth plan. The transaction requires approval from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission as well as clearance from the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. AEP expects the sale to close in the second half of this year. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Indiana is looking for potential victims of a former independent insurance agent in Schererville. Thomas Lemon was indicted by a grand jury in October on 5 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of aggravated identity theft. According to the indictment, Lemon allegedly hatched a scheme in which he wrote more than 1,000 fraudulent life insurance policies for individuals in northern Indiana and elsewhere without their knowledge and consent between at least February of 2020 and August of 2022. U.S. Attorney Clifford Johnson's office says Lemon applied for and obtained the policies using the victims' names, dates of birth, social security numbers, and by forging their digital signatures. Lemon allegedly worked to avoid being detected by paying a certain number of monthly premiums in order to keep the fraudulent policies from lapsing. From the number one source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
To succeed, you need to stay informed. You need to be engaged. And let's face it, you need to set yourself apart from the rest by connecting with a company that brings you the best. Because in today's environment, business is an ever-moving target, and we'll help you chase it. IBJ Media. The best of business is in us. Get started at ibjmedia.com/youngprofessional.
Indiana's Ethics Commission on Thursday unanimously approved post-employment waivers for 4 agency heads moving on from state government as Governor-elect Mike Braun takes over. Alex Brown shares more on where the quartet of Holcomb cabinet members are heading.
Indiana law mandates a 1-year ban on accepting a job or receiving compensation if the job involves lobbying or if the agency head negotiated or administered a contract with a prospective next employer. David Rosenberg's new role as the inaugural president and CEO of the IU Launch Accelerator for Biosciences drew the most attention. Rosenberg withdrew his initial request after concerns from the Ethics Commission that it was too vague. The commission also unanimously approved waivers for 3 other agency leaders: Indiana Department of Environmental Management Commissioner Brian Rockensus, Indiana Department of Transportation Commissioner Michael Smith, and Family and Social Services Administration Secretary Dr. Daniel Rusniak. Rockensus and Smith are joining Indianapolis-based firms as executives, while Rusniak is returning to Eskenazi Health as its chief medical officer. Alex Brown, Inside Indiana Business Radio.
And it's hardly a surprise, but the Gary Community School Corporation does not want to be dissolved. Indiana House Bill 1136 drew a number of concerns during Wednesday's school board meeting in Gary. The bill would dissolve school districts in which the majority of the students living there don't attend the district schools and then turn those schools into charter schools. Gary School's Chief of Community Relations, Chelsea Whittington, noted that the district saw a mass exodus of students during the 7-year state takeover, but enrollment has increased since it returned back to local control last year. The fall enrollment count showed a 214 student increase, and another 153 have enrolled since then. North Liberty Republican Jake Teschka authored the bill, but Gary residents noted that one of the bill's co-authors, Representative Jeff Thompson, is also an advisory member of the Distressed Unit Appeal Board, which oversaw the state takeover, meaning that right after Thompson helped usher Gary schools back to local control, he's carrying legislation to dissolve the district. Outgoing Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC. A weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. available now from your favorite podcast provider. I'm Marek Mazurek for Inside Indiana Business Radio On Demand.